Hey, good afternoon. This is Meredith Leo, and I am doing a whole series of videos on Ascension science and the mechanics that go into how we expand and ascend our consciousness. And in the last few video series, I've focused on different things, but I say a higher theme of the topic has been about the reincarnational process, specifically back onto Earth. And in this particular channeling, it's going to touch upon that theme a little bit more, although it's not a question I was asking who I was channeling the information from, but it happened to come in. In this particular session, I believe I got the information from essentially a guardian, because that was when I essentially asked, who's this information coming from? This is kind of what I got. And it does seem similar to what I have received from Ascended Master Hilarion historically on the topic. So the information provided is the best way to die is with your full conscious memory intact. The illicit memory breaks the repeatable process of blank slating and reincarnation. The Brotherhood serves to migrate as many beings from this cycle. Incarnation is a natural process for consciousness evolution, but not in a closed loop system of repeatable cycles at the same frequency in the same Earth school. And that is really the key message that came in. And as I was reading this, it hit me that the guardian is it's like a guide. It's my own kind of guardian guide, if you will. There was actually a name that was provided that is meaningful to me, so I'm not going to share it, but it was a guide, and this particular guide does work with Ascended Master Hilarion, now that I'm looking at the name that I wrote down after this. So it does come from that sort of collective, if you will, and the reference to Brotherhood was brought up. So going back to this, and I'm going to connect it to some of the videos that I've posted over the last month or so. Basically, this guide or guardian is essentially saying the best way to die is with your full conscious memory intact. So what's implied is that when you're kind of going through that process where your soul is essentially, or your spark, if you will, your consciousness is exiting the body, you're not forgetting everything that you just experienced in the life. And in the last, I think the last or the one before that video that I did on how to stop incarnating on Earth, it's, they said you have the ability to practice this right now through lucid dreaming and or through going out of body experiences, because in those periods of time you're very much conscious, and you're conscious of your experiences in this life. So you have the ability to sort of retain those memories, even though it's in those kind of fuzzy moments of those particular consciousness states. You have the ability to retain all that knowledge as you're transitioning your consciousness more actively or consciously into those other dimensional states as well. So that's essentially what I think is being implied with this. Then again, the illicit memory breaks this repeatable process of blank slating. So that's the idea of the forgetting process that happens and the reincarnation. And then, my guide here basically said that the Brotherhood, which I believe references to the Brotherhood and Sisterhood collectively of Ascended Master groups, serve to migrate as many beings from the cycle of going through the reincarnational pattern on Earth. So that's part of the mission that they're working on, and that's part of apparently what I signed up to help do, and bring those messages down here. So I'm kind of fulfilling my purpose in that way. And incarnation is a natural process, obviously, because consciousness goes through the process of putting consciousness into some sort of a form or a vehicle in order to grow and experience and teach others for the purposes of really lowering entropy of evolution. And that's the whole point of this. And a lot of that, if you're new to this channel or relatively new, I would encourage you to go back to the beginning, because a lot of those lessons come out really in the first 20 videos or so, where, essentially we were taught that was the whole point. And they go into a little bit more detail on that and why that is the case. Now, but they said, okay, so that's pretty normal. Like your consciousness and your soul is gonna go through these experiences in different forms of matter, or that we would think of matter, other dimensions that have other forms, because that's how you're gonna learn and explore and come to the appreciation of everything around you as being one, and be more, I guess you can say, inclusive, and realizing that we're really all one. But in order to do that, it's a natural process. But what they're saying is that right now you're sort of in this cycle of going through this this kind of recycling back on Earth, and that's not normal. And in the last few videos, they gave some hints as to why that happens. So if you didn't watch those, I would encourage you. But just from a high level perspective, essentially, there were some, I guess you could say, forces, if you will, or other beings, other consciousness that sort of understood at the time that we kind of got trapped into the cycle. We were very naive or not knowledgeable about this, and essentially gave our power away, if you will, and in the process started to build up sort of cause and effect energies, but also started to do some things that really were very trying on the soul. And ultimately over many, many generations creates energetic blockages both within the soul and the kind of etheric blueprint of the soul that ultimately translates into the body as the body is birthed and being developed. But it also happens through the kind of heredity line of the family and the lineage, where those kind of energy blockages can take on patterns of certain disease states that we end up, taking into our DNA at the form of the birthing process. And in the first video that I shared, basically goes into how that happens, why that happens, and how to work on releasing that, because that essentially also helps with the sort of freeing the soul from continuing to do that. So they're basically, using me as a vehicle in order to pass this on to you so that you're liberated with that knowledge, so that you can kind of work on breaking that cycle. And a lot of it has to do with self-healing. Just the knowledge, number one, that, you can do this, and number two, that, this does exist, and number three, that you can take back your sovereignty and ownership of really doing self-healing in order to sort of liberate yourself. Of course, if you choose to do that. I have to imagine that you would be you're probably making this choice, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this type of content. So good luck with that. I'm obviously still in the process too. So with that, I hope again that this adds to your repository of knowledge. And if you're new, this content resonates with you, I would encourage you to subscribe, and then sign up for alerts so that you know when I'm posting content, which is generally about twice a week. And I will see everybody in future videos. Goodbye.